Welcome to the Amplifyr Podcast. My name is Aidan Hennebry. I'm your host. Amplifyr is all about marketing and sales that cut through the noise and amplify customer connection, and our podcast is no different. We cover everything from marketing, sales, leadership, pricing, running a business in general, and so much more. In the first episode, we sit down with none other than my wife, Leanne Hennebry, to talk about our 10 years together running a business, Hush Hush Photography and Film, which was a wedding photography and videography company based out of Hamilton, Ontario. There's a lot of great things about that, a lot of lessons learned, all kinds of experience gained in sales and marketing. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. Let's get to it. Leanne Hennebry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Cool. So you used to run a business called Hush Hush Photography and Film. Was that something that you ran by yourself, or did you?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it was all you?
Of course.
Of course. Okay. If there was maybe a chance you had a partner, who was that partner with you?
Oh, you may have helped me out a bit.
A little bit here and there.
Yes. You. And I was just...
Your dad was our accountant, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
He was a helpful part of the equation in some ways.
Definitely.
All right.
Still is.
Still is. Yeah. Still our accountant. Although he just retired. Congratulations, Dad. So we're here today to film an episode talking about what it was like to run a business, especially from the sales and marketing perspective, and kind of uncover some of the unique things about being a wedding photographer and videographer, and try to maybe share some of the knowledge and wisdom that we gained along the way. Does that sound good to you?
Oh, I'm a fount of knowledge.
You are? I mean,
what is it?
You're being humble.
All right, she's the man. I got a lifetime of knowledge.
Your favorite show, or favorite movie ever. All right, so for anyone who is unfamiliar with a Hush Hush, or maybe has come into our lives a little bit later, can you give us just a super quick history? This is not like a quiz. I'm not holding up the answers in front of me here, but can you give us a super quick history on the timeline of Hush Hush, kind of when it began, major milestones, and when we laid it to rest?
Yeah. Did we meet in 2012?
2011, technically.
2011, okay. You flirted. I accepted eventually.
Started dating in 2012.
2012. Yeah. You had the hobby of photography, and eventually one of your friends asked if you had the ability to shoot their wedding, and I kind of said to you, well, people want to hire you. You should put a website together. So, I'm the catalyst of all this.
You are, actually, yep.
That one paid for me to get a camera.
That's right.
And we kind of took off from there, where it was a side business for a number of years, and eventually became, in a sense, your full-time job.
That was around 2016, so we started the business. Yeah, our first wedding we ever shot was 2012. 2016 was when I went full-time self-employed. That was terrifying, but we'll get to that. Anyways.
Yeah. And there'll be many different kind of adjustments and changes in how we did the business, or what we offered as a business. Obviously still capturing weddings in certain ways. And then even my involvement started to fluctuate as we started, having babies. Still are. But yeah. Then eventually, you kind of moved into business photography, social media, but then you were offered a day job, an offer you couldn't refuse, and felt, let's do a change.
Yep, so that was 2021 when I took that gig, and then our last couple of weddings were in 2022. So from start to finish, we shot a little over 100 weddings, if memory serves me correctly, in about 10 years of business, which was not too bad. 5 years full-time and 10 years altogether. So that was fun. Now, obviously, you and I were a couple. First, we were dating, and then we were engaged, and then we were married throughout that process. What do you think? I think we did pretty good overall. Someone was a fly on the wall of our business. I think we did okay.
Definitely.
What would you say were some of the keys to success for us, especially in the early days? How, what were some of the things we did, or just what was it about us that made us succeed?
Let's see. Well, definitely us being a couple, and for most of it, a married couple. I think we definitely had a good perspective, both bride and groom perspective in a sense, and I would help you out a little bit, like, oh, I think she'd really like a shot like this, or I would catch some of the details too. And then I think just our dynamic when interviewing, or what did we, when we met? Consultations. Thank you.
Consulting, having a consultation.
Yeah. The hope to be hired. And I think we had good chemistry as a couple to meet with a couple that connected really well, that made people feel comfortable with us.
Yeah, I would say it was kind of something we stumbled into, and you can absolutely manipulate it if you wanted to, but I think genuinely part of what made us unique as a wedding photography duo was that most of the couples we met with, we felt genuinely like we could have been friends with them. Like if they weren't hiring us and we weren't partnering together, that if we had just kind of met by other circumstances, that we could have been friends. And I thought that was kind of a unique thing. And definitely, yeah, we leaned into the bride's perspective, groom's perspective throughout the wedding day, and kind of how that impacted how we saw different things. I even remember, actually, we would talk about almost even the different focal lengths on our cameras we would use, and how I was aiming for certain things and you were aiming for certain things. So we tried to present this business that was very well-rounded, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Very safe, so that regardless of kind of who was hiring us and what their personal preference was in terms of photography, they were going to get something that they enjoyed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I think when we connected with couples too, I can't remember if like we started to realize and point out like the photographer is the person you kind of spend the most of the day with. So you do want to at least have a form of connection, get along with them. Because if they rub you the wrong way, or they just kind of annoy you, or you don't like them, like, you'll experience that your whole wedding day, and that wouldn't work out very well for you.
No, and I think that, you're kind of getting at, when it comes to, if you're looking at weddings as an industry and as a business, a wedding photographer was a need. There was, there's hardly ever any weddings, at least in the present day, that happen without a photographer of some kind, right? And so we would really pitch to our clients the importance of, hey, hire someone that you really enjoy working with, because as you just said, you're stuck with them if you hire them and you don't like them, right? And so I think there was times definitely we would meet with couples and they would not hire us. And I don't necessarily know that was an us thing, and maybe sometimes it was, but I think at the end of the day, we would always advise couples when we met with them, whether or not you hire us, here are a small list of things that we would recommend that you do no matter what. And our genuine interest was always in the favor of the person that we were sitting across from. Of course, we had to win some level of business to sustain ourselves and have a business at all. But first and foremost, we cared that the customer was going to get something that was the best fit for them, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that was an important lesson we learned early on, was never to be desperate about the couple we were sitting in front of. There were some, of course, that you're like, oh man, beautiful couple, sounds like an amazing wedding day, I so hope that they hire us. But also there was times that you wouldn't win the business, and you kind of had to come to terms with that and move on and not be too attached to it, right? So thinking back to when, especially I'm thinking of kind of the pivot point in our business from when we went from kind of side hustle, hobby-ish type thing, weekend warrior, to making it a full-time gig, especially just for me. What were some of the things that we did in order to mitigate risk as much as we can? Because I remember for me feeling like, okay, I have a full-time income right now. I'm working a salary job. I had mixed feelings about whether I enjoyed the job day in or day out, but I mean, I'm like that with every job, so don't take that for much. But anywho, that felt like a very risky thing to say, hey, you have this stable job that's providing for you and taking care of you, and you're going to kind of throw it away to go full-time self-employed. So most people would say, okay, that's risky. What did we do to protect against that?
Well, I'd say first our circumstances were our personal circumstances was wanting to buy a house, actually. And it was hard then. It's harder now. And the way we were able to save up a down payment really was by both of us working full-time jobs and using the business on the side to put it all away and not need it for just general life expenses. So in a sense, that almost gave us an advantage of having a good full year or even 2 years of just knowing this was at least going to be on the side because we wanted all of the cash bundled up in a sense, right? So it gave us the opportunity first to not rely on it as a income, but it gave us a long period of time that then we had a track record of a steady increase in weddings, clients, and consistent emails we started to see. We could kind of track, okay, about these months we get the most emails, but throughout the year we can expect an email or two for sure, and we're booking at about this rate. So, and then the nice thing about wedding photography is one client at that point is a huge chunk of change, right? You don't need a whole bunch of clients. So then the goal became very easy to calculate. And then we had a history of being like, okay, at this point, it feels safe. And for us financially, making that jump was we had 3 months of what your current salary was being brought in put aside. So in a sense, you then had a 3-month period of if you bring in no money, you're getting another job. So, yeah. Like, it was a lot of financial calculation first, but history of showing and building. And then, in a sense, there was a safety net there. It wasn't I want to be a photographer and here I go. And you can be the breadwinner, honey, while I try all this out by myself and no one's hired me yet.
Right. Well, I mean, you're hitting on the big principles, right? We had a predictable kind of money-making machine that we knew if we do these things, we will get this outcome, statistically speaking, right?
Yeah.
And so that was things, especially back then, that was like blogging, that was networking, that was just, posting on social media, having a really strong website. Our website has always been kind of one of the biggest places where we succeeded as a business. One of the things that we always did really well that I'm very proud of us for. I think that, again, that was a huge help. But not making that jump to full-time self-employed until we knew we have a reliable thing that if we increase the amount of work we're doing on the business, we will see more outcome out of the business, right? And we had, I remember towards the end of being traditionally employed at that point, I would go to the Tim Hortons down the street and work for half an hour or 45 minutes on my lunch break, answering client emails and trying to just get things in order. And then we would go home, and this is obviously before we had kids, but I'd go home and then work on the business in the evening, and we were shooting weddings on the weekends. And so there was a lot of hustle in there in order for us to be able to even come close to being able to turn it into something that was full-time. And definitely one of the things that we haven't even hit on yet that was also super helpful in kind of just building some of the safety net was that you remained working a steady income. And so even though, when I look at our income and our cost of living today, I go, man, that was not a ton of money. It was enough at the time, and that was all that really mattered. And it provided a lot of stability because, as you said, wedding photography was very up and down. It was very not super consistent, and it was seasonal, and you didn't quite know when you were going to be bringing money in, and you wanted to be aware of that, right? What do you think it is that most people misunderstand about being self-employed? Because I think especially before you make that jump, it can seem super enticing. It's something you dream of, whatever. And I mean, obviously I was there. I understood that. Being on the other side of it is something very different, right? What would you say is something people don't quite understand about running a business, working for yourself?
I'd say, especially with photography, because photography for people can be such a passion, a hobby. But being self-employed in business with it, that we really, we really realized is taking photos is kind of 10% of what your time is actually spent doing. Like, emails, unfortunately for you, is such a huge part. Obviously editing, so you're still dealing with photos, but then there's website, social media, marketing in general, meeting with clients, whole list of things that really do take up the time of actually powering the business to keep moving forward and bringing clients in and all the lead up until you actually pull that camera out.
I think you're 100% right. I think that's one of the big things that you see with a lot of small businesses, especially that start up or these entrepreneurs that try to really go at a full-time income, is you think, oh, I have a passion for baking cookies. I'm really, really good at baking cookies. Why don't I just bake 1 billion cookies and sell 1 billion of them and I'll pay all my bills? Well, exactly as you just said.
Yeah, I remember actually once when you're talking to my dad, who's the accountant, you once said, like, did you ever think or want to start your own business in accounting? And he was very much, well, if I did that, I would be doing very little accounting. Mm-hmm.
And he is gifted at accounting, and he was skilled at it, and that was what he wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that definitely, it helped that I was coming out of a marketing job, and so I was comfortable with marketing. I liked marketing, but, I won't name his name, but there's a very well-known wedding photographer out of Kitchener-Waterloo. He was well-known back then. He's still huge now. I think like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, whatever. And we always felt like he was not necessarily the greatest photographer in the world. Or just, there's billions of talented photographers out there. And to be clear, we were not the most talented photographers in the world. We knew it too. But he was exceptional at business. And we knew, okay, being good at business can make up for some of the sins and shortfalls of not having your craft absolutely perfected, right? And we wanted to perfect our craft. That was why we got into photography. It's fun to take photos and edit them and make cool looking pictures, but the business side of it became more important. And there are those anomalies out there that they are the less than 1%ers in the world, creative industries especially, that they're so talented at whatever craft it is that they can make a living off, and people just throw money at them. Mm-hmm. But for the average person running the average business, 99% of us, you are not that talented, and it would far better serve you to invest in business and in marketing and sales and all of those things, and kind of get your craft where it's good enough, as opposed to just continually investing in trying to make your craft as good as possible. In the early days, it can feel a lot like you're feeling around in the dark to know kind of what is your position in the market, how do you orient your business, who are the people you're trying to reach for. But especially, depending on the business, depending on the service, the industry, whatever, what to charge is a very confusing and difficult thing. So we obviously found some sort of way to navigate that. So what would you say we did in the beginning to help us navigate figuring out what to charge, especially in the early days?
Yeah, well, you reminded me how we would have...
This is ethically questionable, I suppose, but forgive us, anyone who is listening to this.
Well, a lot of websites don't post their pricing.
No,
so that's why
wedding photographers specifically. Yes,
they want to create the connection first, and they thought that was strategic. We took a different approach in general, but because a lot of our just direct competition didn't post their prices, we had an email that was, "Hi, I'm Bride Katie," or something, and just curious what your packages are.
I think her name was Julia Baker. I don't know why this is coming back to me. So if you're a wedding photographer from the years of 2012 to 2022 and you got an inquiry from Julia Baker and she just ghosted you, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, so that was in a sense how we felt we had to do the research of what people generally charge. And for what they charge for, obviously, because there's a lot of packages, but in general it was also a lot of similarities out there. So then we would analyze ourselves, what can we offer that's different, have an edge on our competition, which with all products of similarities, it's hard sometimes. And then we did find a few things, as well as also just knowing how big our portfolio is and our experience, like what's reasonable to be like, okay, yeah, these guys are charging $5,000 right now. We have shot 3 weddings, so we aren't at their level. It's not reasonable. But also trying to find the balance of like, oh, if someone pays us this amount of money, I am hiring a beginner professional, not hiring a cousin or anything like that, but I am getting someone early on at a good deal that I feel within my budget is acceptable.
I would say on top of that, is so absolutely doing research on what are our customers, what are our competitors charging was a huge thing that we did. And if you posted your info publicly on your website, we wouldn't email you pretending to be someone. So I never liked how secretive it was. And I think, I understand where that comes from. Business people sometimes have this misconception that, if I just build a really strong relationship with this client, they'll pay whatever it is I charge. And I just so do not believe that that is true. No. At the end of the day, the client has a budget and you meet it or you don't. And yes, there might be some wiggle room for the right client here or there. But if you as a vendor are not willing to show any sort of ability to kind of negotiate or meet in the middle or anything like that, it doesn't matter how much the client loves you. If they cannot afford you, they will not pay you. There's wedding photographers you and I followed for years. I still follow them, and I've been out of the industry for years now, and I love their work, and I dreamed of hiring them just to do a shoot with us. But I knew that what they charged was so far out of our budget. It was the price of a small car that I'm like, or a nice car, some of them, that I'm like, I just could never justify this. And I think that business people, it was just so frustrating to see wedding photographers do that over and over and over, where they hid all of their pricing. Well, I don't think it was out of timidness or anything, but they just believed if I get you on the horn and I get to be friends with you, you're going to pay me whatever it is I want to charge you. And that is just so
like
not
if I'm
true.
Able to talk to you in any capacity first, then I've strengthened a connection as opposed to someone just reading a number. And we just felt that that's not realistic. I think those who might hire those at more money than they could afford, they have been following that photographer and they have been planning their entire wedding dream existence of, I will make that work and sacrifice else. It won't be I found your website, how much are you? Like, it would be like those who are like, no matter what, the day I get married, I will figure out a way to. So you've already hooked them.
Absolutely. And what you're speaking about is value in a lot of ways, right? And just kind of the way you do business and the way you attract your clients, right? We, one of our greatest marketing techniques was building up a really strong website with tons of great SEO. And most of the clients that found us did not know us before they Googled our name for the first time, opened up our website, fell in love with us, sent us an email. For those for those photographers that would charge thousands of dollars and hope that building a good relationship is what's going to get you hired, exactly as you're saying, chances are that couple had been following that photographer for years already, and the hook was already in, and it was just a matter of kind of finalizing the details, right? But circling back even to what you were saying before about, when we would research what our competitors were doing. One thing you and I were obsessed about was value. And we didn't kind of know enough about business to be able to articulate it so clearly. But we really wanted our package. We wanted the price that when people heard the price, but they understood all the features they got in it, we wanted them to go, wow, I can't believe that you're charging that. That is such a deal. So for us, a couple of those features was unlimited hours on your wedding day. We did that for many years, probably longer than we should have, but it was a huge selling feature. And it, there was a couple times that someone took advantage of it, but not that often. What it afforded us to be able to talk about that in a sales consultation with a client, to be able to say, hey, we're offering something that no one else on the market offers. That was huge for us, right? On top of that, having 2 photographers all day long, and not just like an established professional photographer and their cousin that they hired, as you were saying, but 2 professional, established photographers all day on your wedding day, different perspectives. At times we were shooting in different locations to cover things. We tried to jam pack our package. And for the longest time, we had one package, even though, traditional business acumen now would teach you not to do that, to offer a whole bunch of packages and so on. And we eventually kind of got there.
Yep.
But for so long, we just had, here's our package price, because we have stuffed everything we think you will need and more inside of it, so that if you're choosing us, you are covered no matter what. And I think that psychological safety won us a lot of business, right? Not only were we trying to build a ton of value by saying, look how far your dollar goes by hiring us, we also wanted people to know that even if they were not super clear on all of the details, that they were going to be covered by hiring us, right?
Definitely are. And then, honestly, creating such a flexibility within having two people, someone could be at, in a sense, the photographers could be at two places at once. I don't need to worry about my timeline or feeling crunched for time. Like in the other things we had, we gave a lot of comfort to our clients, but then it taught us, as we had more experience and keep doing it, we learned how to eventually, phase out the unlimited hours and eventually offer one photographer package, because we could see the strategic ways that you could still capture everything with one person within the 8 or 10 hour package. Like when we eventually went there, that then we gained the experience of, like, if you let us in on planning, and then we'll help you with your timeline, because we have so much experience of seeing all of that. Then it became we help you with planning a bit, and then you only need us for that because we've done this so many times. I can be, you were then able to be like, I start with the guys or go with the girls, and like, you got everything. So also that allowed us the learning opportunity to then shift our package and still feel like we were offering the same form of coverage.
Well, and so, how I would summarize what you're talking about is, then we started, the more we had done it and we actually had experience in weddings under our belts, we were able to tweak our package to increase the value for us, right? So for a long time, it was very client heavy, that they were getting the better end of the deal. And so without just jacking up our price, instead we tried to modify our features in order to still give the client the experience that we were known for and we had built an entire business on, but not tax ourselves and be absolutely punished because we had promised them the whole world and we were the ones that kind of paid the price for that in the end, right? The other thing that you're really hinting at here is, you talked about, okay, in the beginning, we just kind of offered everything and take what you need and leave what you don't or whatever. And eventually, when we started shifting around our package, we moved into more of a trusted advisor role. So we were saying, let us get involved and actually plan your day with you, or the timeline of your day, because we knew that most of the clients that were hiring us had never been married before, had not maybe even been around that many weddings, maybe had been in a friend's wedding or something like that, generally did not know what they were doing. And so for us, when we were like, well, we shoot weddings all year long, we know them inside and out, we can help you, we moved the services that we offer far beyond what a traditional, the box of a traditional wedding photographer. We offered services that you would not have expected from our business, but that were super valuable and super unique to our clients, because we had these unique perspectives we could offer that no one else could offer. And the thing is, it wasn't even that our competitors couldn't offer it. They absolutely could if they just put in the work. But we saw this is a need that our clients have, and this is something that we can do in order to satisfy that. So after a while, when the clients would hire us, we weren't just, the business they thought they were hiring, a wedding photographer or whatever. We became so much more because we expanded what we did, and there was no additional cost to us except time. And that to us was the sweetest thing, because we knew a couple hours right here is going to save us a ton of time, stress, anxiety later on the wedding day. So once again, it became an investment and it served us better. So even though it cost us more time up front, in the end, everyone was better for it, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it became like a beneficial for both, where we were able to help them see lulls in their day that just were unnecessary. because we started to have those experiences of, oh, we pretty much just spent an hour and we really didn't take a photo, because it just wasn't necessary.
Yep.
But then again, yeah, we liked to be involved ourselves in the process, because then we'd rather spend an hour on the phone talking and adjusting than add an hour to our day of being like, well, if we just had helped a little, we see all these areas we could have helped because of our expertise and knowledge.
And honestly, that helped our clients save money because they did not have to spend more money to keep us there longer and, be punished that way. So it was a money saving thing for our clients, and it just made the work that much more enjoyable for us, right? But continuing to talk about money, can you tell me about a time that we underpriced ourselves and the lesson maybe that we took away from that?
Well, I can't think of a time specifically of like when our main price was underpriced. I think we always reevaluate mostly each year or after we had booked so many packages at that price. But I do know, like, through each year, when we were maybe trying to reach a yearly cap or salary, or there might have been a slight recommendation from someone who had a lower budget. Pretty much there was a few clients over the years who we would eventually give great deals to, that just kind of were on the cheaper side, and they were the hardest people to work with. The, in a sense, most demanding, expected the most, and that was like shocking to us. Like, we're actually shooting your wedding this year for less than anyone else because of circumstances A, B, or C, or whatever. And we're like, there's actually no gratitude for what we were giving them at the price we were giving them, but more like, where's photos of this and this and this? And we're like, you just got 1,400 photos. How are you actually complaining right now? Like, we actually cut our package in half, or for one circumstance or something like that. It was just, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, there was a number of lessons we learned from that, right? One of which was when you're discounting clients, it is advisable to discount the things you're offering them, right? So for us, one of the easiest things that we would take away if a customer didn't have the budget that we wanted them to was the number of hours we were shooting, which decreased the number of photos they got back. Now, we always underpromised and over-delivered on the amount of photos that we gave back. Always without fail. Like, again, punishingly so to us at times to edit that many photos. But it was what we did to go above and beyond, even for the clients that did not pay us as much money, right? But that was definitely something that, we eventually, I think, caught on to that, hey, if you're asking for a discount, we'll meet you in the middle and we'll discount you, but you cannot get the full package for the price that you want. You can't just name a price and get it, because at the end of the day, the thing about doing that is you punish the great clients that pay full price. When you discount a client for no apparent reason and you still give them the exact same thing, you're punishing your good clients. And how is that fair? And I remember, there were times that we would offer discounts and it was in the contract, it was agreed. You will not tell people the price of what you actually paid. You will only talk about what the regular price is of this package and the value that we provided. And thankfully, we never had any issues. And honestly, I don't think we ever discounted anyone that we would have caused any real issue with anyone that had paid full price, because again, we knew at the end of the day, they are going to get the better experience from us. But nonetheless, that was one of the biggest things we learned eventually, was when you're negotiating with clients and if you're knocking off the price, they need to give up something as well. It cannot just be a loss for you and a win for them, right? One of the other big things, you said it and I'll just summarize it, was that the cheapest clients were actually some of the worst to work with. And when we, it's a paradox. When we raised our rates, the clients were better, and it made no sense. And I mean, at the end of the day, of course, we were better business people for it. We knew how to provide a better service for our clients. We had been through the ringer. We had known, we'd made mistakes and learned all kinds of things and then took action to protect against them. But at the end of the day, it was so simple, and you could draw a line from A to B to say that the cheap clients expected the most. They were the rudest. They were the least appreciative of the work that you did. You were just another vendor. You were just a little bit of money they threw at you, and they expected the world. The clients that were the most amazing were the clients that paid us the best. And then not only did we enjoy shooting those weddings more, I would have to think that throughout that whole experience, we would have done a better job because we were enjoying the process, and we believe that that enriched the craft side of what we did, right? Did you ever feel uncomfortable during the sales process? So especially, a client had emailed us, hey, we think we're interested in you. And we'd say, let's get together for coffee. Let's talk about it. And then we would go through our whole spiel, and eventually we had it down to a science. It was a 1 hour rehearsed thing where, well, sometimes if clients would talk a lot, it was more than an hour. But our part was, I feel like 30 minutes almost down pat, a lot of the same jokes every time. And I was telling them, telling them like I was thinking of them on the fly for the first time. And you were always laughing, not at my jokes, but at me pretending that I was coming up with them. But anyways, that process of sitting across the table from someone and selling them on you, trying to convince them that you were the person they wanted to hire. Was that something that ever made you uncomfortable? And if so, how did you get over that? How do you become comfortable selling if you don't feel like a natural salesperson?
Well, it definitely got easier with time because, in a sense, as much as I laughed at your repetitive jokes, there was a script in a sense, natural, like, this is what we do to lead to this. So like there was comfort in like what we were doing because you knew in general where the conversation was going. I'd say each time we jumped a good pay gap, there would be some nerves. So like, oh, can we sell this now at this price? And like, I remember each time we booked the first client at the next price up, like, yes, it was so exciting.
It builds confidence,
right?
Oh,
absolutely.
Because you feel like, oh, okay, someone, well, not just someone, this particular person thinks that I am worth that much money, right?
Yep.
Because you in your head, you feel kind of like an imposter, right? This is imposter syndrome 101, right? Of feeling like, man, what I want to charge, no one out there is going to pay. So exactly, when you convince someone to pay that, it's thrilling.
And then also in terms of uncomfortable, it's almost the opposite. I think of where we met with some couples and we asked some questions to get to know them. And we quickly get a vibe that we're just like, oh, they're arguing about this, or they're already like, in a sense, the happiest phase, and they're not seeming very happy with each other. And we're almost in like selling ourselves, but almost we don't want to sell ourselves.
Almost trying to make ourselves sound terrible. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, nah, you really don't want to hire. You know what? We're not that good.
It's like, yeah, we do this. It's fine.
Yep, for sure. I mean, I think what you're identifying, like, for us, we would recognize a client is not a good fit for us if we didn't feel like the clients were a good fit for each other, right? And so there were times definitely that we did not want to shoot a wedding because we were like, we just don't know that this couple will even get to the altar, first of all, or just that what they are maybe searching for and some of their expectations are maybe what we offer, right? So absolutely, I think the price thing was always one of the scariest things. And I can remember the first time we charged over a certain dollar amount, I feel like I was jumping up and down in our living room on John Street in that apartment, I can remember. And like, we probably went out to dinner to celebrate. To be like, holy smackaroons, we've got all this money coming in and we're rich. We've won the lottery, right? It feels that way. It's thrilling when you can raise your rates and have someone agree that you are worth that. The only way for me that I feel like we ever got over that was just doing it. I don't think there was any tricks or anything you could do. Maybe you kind of practice. Like, we definitely had the all the talking around our price down pat, but it was always saying the number out loud was scary, right? And being ready to justify if someone said, well, I don't think you're worth that. I think you're worth half of that. Why you are charging what you charge, right? To me, that was one of the only ways that you really get over charging a reasonable amount and being confident about it, right?
Yeah, because once people paid for your service within that amount, you gain more confidence that if someone's like, well, that seems expensive, it's like, that's fine. There are other options, because you also feel like, I have a few other emails, I've booked a few people now at this price, like, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might not be that person, but I feel I've got more opportunities down the road too.
And that absolutely goes back to not being desperate for the business.
Yes.
And exactly that, once you have that first win at that price point, it steamrolls or snowballs into more of the same. That the next time you say that number out loud, you're going to be that much more confident, because you've won business at this price, and you know that there is someone out there aside from just you, hopefully, that believes you're worth that, right? And that's maybe almost a quick little thing to make note of, right? Don't charge a price that you don't actually think you're worth. Mm-hmm. We never charged $10,000 for the package we offered, because it was questionable as to whether or not we were worth it. Maybe $10,000. We would never charge $20,000. Again, going back to some of these spectacular wedding photographers that would charge the price of a mid-sized sedan for their wedding photography, for 8 hours of coverage on a wedding photography day, right? We never charged more than what we actually believed we were worth and was fair. And some of that was what we knew in the market, and a lot of that was just who we believed we were as business people and what we felt comfortable standing behind, right? Because at the end of the day, we had to live with ourselves and knowing how we were operating as a business, and never wanting to rip people off or take advantage of anyone, even people that had deep pockets, right? Like, we wanted to be integral, whether we were charging someone that had a $10,000 wedding or a $100,000 wedding or more. And we shot all of those and everything in between. And regardless, we wanted to treat that client like they had paid us $1 million, and we wanted to do the absolute best job we could, but we were never going to charge more than what we believed we were worth.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a little bit around our website and trying to create trust within our marketing and our sales process and so on. Can you just speak to that a little bit more? Maybe what did we do with our website that was different than other competitors of ours in order to try to build trust in the process? And, maybe even the sales consultation process, because that was definitely a place where we tried to build trust with people. Can you just speak to that a bit, about some of the different things that we did in order to try to maximize that trust?
Well, definitely we were transparent with our pricing and what you got. We also did some videos, like we did an advertisement video just to show what I believe Hush Hush was. And then maybe we had something about explaining the pricing, like really felt like it was introducing us. But in general, we had a decent amount of videos about us on there to also feel like people kind of knew the photographer, got to know us a bit, just feel like, oh yeah. So if they did meet with us, they'd seen us, they heard us, they could kind of get a feel for what our personalities are like. Also, within the pricing packages, like we mentioned early on about how a lot of people are secretive about that, we took the opposite approach and made it very easy to follow and understand. So to go more for when people have a budget and they see, oh, these guys are within my budget and they give me all of this, I should definitely at least reach out to them. So that was big. We were very, obviously with photography, you had a decent portfolio.
Yep.
Which partnered with your Instagram. I would say that, I'm not sure if we explained like our editing process or like our color choices.
Our philosophy behind it. Yep.
Yes. And as I think everyone knows with photography, there are filters, and
those filters, and they come and go, man. They
yes.
like changes in the wind.
Right. There was definitely a muted colored
trend.
Thank you. Trend that was going on for a decent amount of years while we were wedding photographers. And I don't really know what's trendy right now. Then there became kind of the pale look, maybe almost like, film, trying to be film, but not. Anyways, we would explain too what ours was, and we liked color, and we liked it to be authentic to what the day looked like. And our main philosophy explaining behind that too was we just want them to age well. We want them to just stay true to what your memory felt like too of the day. And you take a lot of photos outside, and the outdoors is beautiful and lush and colorful, and why dumb that down?
Yep, I think you're hitting on a lot of the big things, right? We wanted to be upfront about here's our philosophy as a business. Here's what matters to us in the work that we create for you, right? And there was absolutely some clients that we were not the right photographer for, that they went to friends of ours. I still have friends that are wedding photographers that had a very different style, very different approach to the craft than we did. And I was happy to move clients along if I felt like one of my friends or even just an acquaintance in the industry was going to be a better fit for them. Because what you and I feel like realized early on, through some of the bumps and bruises along the way, especially in your early days running a business, was that taking on clients that you knew you were not a great fit for was not good for you in the long run.
No.
You might have made a little bit of cash, but chances are you were never going to really please that customer. They were never going to recommend you. And even if they did, chances are their friends are a lot like them, and you don't really want more of those anyways if you knew they were not a right fit. So being upfront about here's our philosophy behind what we do. If you're not the right fit, we have no problem pushing you along and recommending you to someone else who might be a better fit. Not hiding things like our pricing and what comes in it and everything that we do. And I remember that some of the times that I'd felt like we had succeeded the most in our marketing was when we would meet a client for the first time over coffee, and they would ask us something about our personal lives. And I knew that the only way they knew that detail was because they had dove into the depths of our website. They had watched some of those videos. They had explored our business, and they knew lots about it going into it. And there was a couple of our clients that were part of marketing agencies and things, and when they would meet with us, they would say, like, did you do your website yourself? Because it's excellent. It's like it stood out from all the other photographers we looked at, right?
I'd also say because of that, our success rate of that when we went into consultations was very high.
Huge.
Like, we felt if we'd booked a consultation, we were 90% getting that client. It was a lot less get to know you in a sense, because they really got to know. They knew almost all the main stuff they needed to before they even met with us.
Well, you're hitting on a huge thing too, right? So I remember there was, you'd ask other peers in the industry, how many inquiries do you get? Inquiries was like, we talked about that a lot. That was like a metric of success, right? How many inquiries do you get in a week or in a month from new clients? And I remember for a long time, we had peers in the industry that had like 3 to 5 times the amount of inquiries we did, but they maybe only had like 1.5 to 2 times the amount of bookings we did in a year. And I remember feeling like, man, what are they doing right that they're getting so many people that are inquiring with them all the time? But what I realized was it was after you and I had changed our approach of how we talked about pricing. So we used to, just to be clear, just so no one thinks that we're better than anyone else, we used to take let's build a relationship with them and we can charge whatever they want and they'll pay it type of approach, where we kept our pricing very hidden. Prices start at this, email me for more info. We stopped doing that, and we just went all out with our website, published everything on there. We're super upfront. So that, exactly as you're saying, we saw a huge drop off in the amount of people that actually emailed us, reached out to us. But that meant that every time we sat down with a couple, exactly between 90-95% of the time, we knew that client is going to book us for something. And it's more about what are the specific details of what they want. Because at that point, we'd started negotiating a bit and so on. What are they going to actually book us for, as opposed to, are they going to book us at all? And I have to think that gave us a level of confidence going into consultations as well, because we know, okay, we probably already have these guys. They're probably already going to buy from us. And so now all that we need to do is just like land the plane slowly and carefully and touch the wheels down and just not bungle it in the process, right? And that was it builds a lot of confidence when you don't feel like every sale could be the last one, but you feel like, man, if I'm actually investing my time to meet with these people, there's a good chance the business is already mine. And, you know, I'm thinking of the movie Hitch with Will Smith. Your job is not to mess it up. That's just how I feel anyways.
Yeah, I'd say then even every email, you'd already weeded out.
Tire kickers.
Yeah, where, okay, if someone's even emailing me, they already most likely look through my website and know enough that, you know, there's a more serious tone there. And that also was time efficient for you. So replying to emails became more worthwhile too, because the rate of success went up because of the vetting that happened before someone emailed you.
So completely changing the way that we approach our website was a unique marketing thing that we did, and it worked really well. Can you think of a time that we did something in our business, whether it's sales or marketing related, but something in our business that was just a complete flop and did not work out at all, or was just, maybe it got a little bit of something, but it was just supremely disappointing, big picture?
I would say...
You're smiling. You've got a couple answers. I know.
It's because we're a married couple and I don't want to...
Throw me under the bus?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Throw away.
I'd say when you want it to be more passion project than business focused. The main area of the business that comes to mind is when you were sick of photography and you wanted, let's just do videos instead.
I'll just clarify real quick. It was probably less that, well, I was sick of photography a little bit, but it was more that I was more fired up about video because I felt like video was more creative, and it is, objectively speaking. You have more room to play with it in the editing room, and there's all kinds of different things you can do. So anyways, that's just the only thing I want to quickly clarify.
But I would say like you were, again, the passion was more on the videos because, you know, within our business, we did ad videos. We were able to do that, and that helped also book clients. It was great. We loved our videos. You then decided, let's just do film. And you're very excited about it. And quickly the inquiries dried up. And from a business standpoint, the most simple way of explaining it that you figured out is everyone needs a photographer at their wedding. A video is a luxury product. And yeah, there are people out there who make great business on videos. And as we've always kind of said with successful businesses, there can be little bits of luck out there too.
Oh, yeah.
People who just made the right connection, got in the right path, the right venue recommends your name. But yeah. And people would be like, so you don't do photos? And so I forget what the original question was.
Something we did that flopped.
That flopped.
So
that flopped.
It flopped. That's right. How did we eventually recover from that?
We started offering photos again.
So simple.
Yeah. And you kept the video package as an option. And especially when we added video, that's where our package had a lot of different options and flexibilities. So when we made some adjustments and brought, again, photo back into it, we had other options for sure. That was just video if people wanted that. But at the end of the day, you're a business. This isn't just something you're doing out of passion and pure enjoyment on the side. We were relying on that income pretty heavily. And I believe at that point we had started having children too. So
yep.
There was the more like, okay.
I can remember the couple of days, the like almost moment in time when I had really had to come to terms with like, you know, this is maybe less business related, more just personal related, but I am failing my wife and failing my family because I am putting passion and personal enjoyment over running a business and providing for my family. And I specifically remember that it was on our trip to Banff, Alberta. We were in that cool little cabin in Canmore, and we had Leo. You were pregnant with Betty. You were sick. You were laying on the couch, and it just like became clear to me, we have essentially no weddings booked. We are going to run out of money because I have tanked this thing. And when we get back home, I am going to go into ultra hustle mode, back into like, we need to make money. And what was miraculous from that, and you know, as you and I are Christians and have a strong faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, we attribute it to God being very kind to us and faithful. Me faithful, absolutely, and me repenting of, hey, and I believe that I sat you down at least once or twice, but said like, hey, I realize that I've put our family in a really bad position. I am full of regret and guilt, and whatever it takes, I'm going to put in the work. And by the grace of God, I hope that God will hear my prayer in our hearts and be able to set us back on track. And what was crazy is and you were as amazing as you always are, and you forgave me and you understood and you just trusted me that I was going to figure it out. Or if push came to shove, that I would take a day job again, because I was going to provide for our family one way or another. And the thing that happened in the 7 weeks after that happened that one time and never again in 10 years of business, was for 7 weeks straight, we booked a new client every single week. And in 7 weeks, we had added a significant amount of business to our year next year. Mm-hmm. And it meant that I was not going to have to get a day job. And that was just a huge learning opportunity on so many levels, personal, of course, professional as well. But you touched on it as a really, and so I've never done that again, and Lord willing, we'll never do that again, where I put my passion before my family, right? And I think that, man, there's just so many lessons tucked into that, right? Business people start businesses because you have this thing you are passionate about and you want to do it. But when you let that passion dictate how you run your business, you don't have a business anymore. You have a hobby that makes money. And those are very different things, and they will take you very different places in life. And I took this business that we had that was pretty well established and it was a money-making machine, and turned it into a hobby that made money and barely made any money at that point. And that was like, again, absolutely regrettable. I was very fortunate, one of few, that I learned my lesson, was able to turn it around quickly enough that it did not mean a huge lifestyle change for us. But it was a sketchy couple of weeks and months there where I was really grappling with that. But what the business lesson, maybe more than anything, that we took from that, you said it, and I want to just kind of highlight it again and underscore it here. When it comes to business and the services you offer, fulfilling a want is great, but fulfilling a need is better. And videography was a want. It was a luxury. It was, we have the cash, let's add on and expand. Photography was a need. Now, of course, it's not like a need like water or food or something, but within generally speaking,
wedding business and industry.
In the wedding industry, photography was a need. And so I went from offering a business that was satisfying a need to offering a business that was satisfying a want. And because I also needed money in order to, pay for our life, that became something that was unsustainable for us long term, right? But that to me was just a really valuable lesson in terms of what I offer and what the market actually needs, right? Because it did not matter that I was super passionate about video. Did not matter how skilled I was at it. If the industry, if the clients did not want it or need it or value it, then what I offered, frankly, did not matter at the end of the day. And that, I think, is just something that so many people starting businesses can forget, is just because you are good at something does not mean that you're going to succeed in selling that to clients. Do you have a favorite brilliant marketing thing that we ever did?
Like, I think the married couple was just very simple and obvious at the beginning. Mm-hmm.
You're saying clients hiring a married couple to shoot them becoming a married couple?
Yeah.
Was a good business thing we did?
Yep. We had a good dynamic, and then again, you got two photographers. Mm-hmm. And definitely in the beginning, our unlimited hours was
something no one else offered.
No one else offered. So it was a very easy, distinguishable thing about us.
And seen as highly valuable once again, right?
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, unlimited something stupid. Like it was actually something that clients were like, ooh, that is something that sounds awesome to me and I cannot get that anywhere else. So it was a huge draw.
And we, for a lot of those early years, felt most of the weddings still were averagely around the same length. So it wasn't really bad for us. There was enough eventually that we're like, okay, we got to wrap this up. We're starting to feel it's unsustainable. And moving out of that became very hard.
Yes.
Because then that was such a easy sell market-wise. So
yep,
that really comes to mind in the early days.
Definitely. One of the things I would say we did later, and honestly, we started to kind of step back from wedding photography altogether by the time, before we could almost really, really take advantage of it, was our wedding day timeline course. So we took all of our knowledge of how to plan a really great tight timeline for your wedding day, and we packaged it into 16 different videos. It was about 3 hours of footage all chopped up into different sections of the day, and we offered that. If you didn't want to hire us, you could just pay to buy it online, but we offered it as something free that we included for all the clients that hired us. And the clients that watched it, by the time that we met with them to actually say, hey, let's plan out your day, they had already gained so much knowledge that what we did was we took meetings and knowledge we already had and just packaged it into something that we could easily repeat and share with more people. So that was one of the things I think that we did that no other wedding photographer in the industry offered a course of any kind for clients, right? Some photographers would try to offer, hey, here's camera 101. Well, that was great. Our clients were not other photographers. Our clients were your everyday people who were getting married. So we wanted to make a product that was specifically for the audience we wanted to attract to buy our main offering, which was our wedding photography services. So we were smart about trying to build something unique and interesting that would attract them at a small scale in order to earn their trust and sell them at a big scale. Again, we started to retire before we really took advantage of that, but it was something really unique we did that I still look back on with pride.
Well, that reminds me actually of the course that we took first that taught us how we could actually include a video in a photography package while being the main photographers. And we would, I think maybe 2 or 3 weddings, we just did it to see if we could.
Yeah, we surprised a couple of those couples.
And we look back at those, like, yeah, those are...
those were dicey
this
videos.
This is us holding the camera.
This is before the days of in-body image stabilization for all the photographers out there. Oh, yeah, it was not great looking back. But it was something.
Yeah.
And we tried. And those clients were thrilled with a
honestly,
surprise
I'd
video.
still be thrilled if I had a shaky little bit of video though
that I didn't pay for
of my wedding day. It's still special. And then we were able to feel like, oh, this is very achievable, and we can just add this add-on for, again, much more competitive than adding a whole videography package, but still getting some video. So again, we found other ways to really distinguish ourselves from the competition.
Yep, that is a good answer to that question. I liked that. That was that was smart for us for sure. It absolutely changed the course of our business to start offering video as well. And now it's like, I think you can hardly find a wedding photographer that doesn't also offer video. But that was a turning point in our business for the better. Going back to the personal questions, what was it like for us as a married couple running a business?
Great. No, I'd say overall wonderful. Like you and I have always said, like, we'd rather be spending our days together. We aren't the type of couple who's like, oh no,
we'd kill each other.
I don't know if we could hang out all the time. Like, honestly, we just want to hang out all the time.
Yep.
So it was really fun. Like, we fed off each other's energy. We'd be excited to show each other one of those shots. We'd be celebrating together by gaining business. The business provided for us, growing a family, buying a home. So, like, what we were achieving in business was helping us achieve in our personal life too. It was great. Like, it was fun to do together, to see where it brought us. Like, the home we live in today and like the house and the life we have, we attribute so much to creating that business together. I think especially getting in a home.
Oh, yeah.
Is one of the biggest things we love that together we accomplished that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's difficulties, like when we talked about you switching to video, and then the tension of, in a sense, being your business partner and your wife, and you trying to encourage your passions, but, you know, trying to be the voice of reason sometimes, and doing that in a way that doesn't hurt, but also needs to happen too, in terms of, yeah, it's a business. I want you to enjoy your job too, but I also need to say, like, at the end of the day, this income is first for this, and we need this income. So, you know, those are difficult times of that. You are a bit of a restless person sometimes. I'm a practical person. So, yeah, those were some of the, like, difficult times, but you know, marriage has its difficulties anyways, so.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember there was a couple times where we'd have a couple ask us, like, okay, you guys are like a couple. What happens if you fight on a wedding day or something? And thankfully, I feel like we could only count on one hand the amount of times that we got into like a very minor tiff or something. And usually it was me being impatient about something and then being snarky and hurting your feelings. But we were always very good at, like, we're here to do a job.
Absolutely.
We'll put our personal feelings on pause. We will deal with this later.
Well, we even saw the timeline, but, you know, I can at least say to him, hey, that was a little snarky. Like, once we were done this part, like.
Yeah, as we were driving back to the reception or something like that. Yeah, we'd be able to quickly try to debrief and work it out in the car. But yeah, I mean, also too, like, there were probably boundaries that we set where it was like, let's not talk about certain topics when we're working together, or let's just be aware of, hey, what we do could impact this whole thing super negatively. So I think there was a mindset that we tried really, really hard to go into it with, of always making sure that we were recognizing we are here first and foremost as service people, business people, hired for this very specific reason, this very specific position. And so first and foremost, we need to do that. And then only kind of after that are we almost maybe a couple in some ways. I don't know. It's just like this tension, right? It's both.
And then I think we'd say, or at least we knew, that we enjoy being together and doing stuff together. And so accomplishing goals together and creating great photos for a couple fueled us. It excited us. We got extra enjoyment that we were able to do it together.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. It was fun. I remember at the end of most years, especially in our later years, we would go out for dinner to celebrate the end of another season, and we would talk about the different weddings that we shot that year and some of the highlights and lowlights.
We even had like the awards, right? Oh gosh,
things that we swore we would never ever reveal to some couples, because some of them, yes, maybe were some of our not so favorite.
Well, what was the most
things.
dramatic moment, or who had my favorite flowers, or best dress? And those are personal preferences too.
Absolutely.
But we had fun reliving the days and looking back on our years and all the ones we got.
Oh yeah, I think first, like, we always recognized the honor of being a part of someone's wedding day, right? And we always took that super seriously. And so, you know, it was fun to experience that as a couple, and some of the different weddings and different things you shot. And so we took time to enjoy that. And I think that was a fun element of being a married couple working a job together, right? Definitely a unique thing that not everyone has the opportunity to do. Closing the chapter of Hush Hush was a big decision, right? Like we said, we started in 2012. We shot until 2022, and it was a gigantic part of our story, even just kind of as a couple. You know, photography has deep roots in us getting together and falling in love and engaged and married. We've got tattooed cameras on our bodies. That was the logo of our wedding. We our entire theme at our wedding was cameras and photography and pictures, because we had a lot of those by then. So, you know, closing that chapter of our lives was a big deal. For you, I guess, you know, what was it like to kind of come to the conclusion of, hey, maybe this thing has run its course and maybe it's time to stop shooting weddings? And that's also even interesting because you retired from shooting before I did. You were still kind of involved behind the scenes. Certainly you enabled me to continue shooting. But even, you know, one of the things when we were preparing to shoot this episode earlier, you had mentioned that until the very end, there was not a single wedding gallery or wedding film that I gave back to a client that your eyes did not go over, and you did not sometimes provide constructive feedback to me about, hey, you should maybe fix this thing or tweak that thing or adjust this. So anyways, even though you stopped shooting earlier, you were still involved in the business until the very end. So maybe just walk us through, what was it like to kind of realize, okay, maybe this thing has run its course?
Yes, well, since I stopped shooting first, it was kind of more gradual for me. It was funny near the end where you would talk about couples and I'd be less in the know. Be like, no, you need to show me the photos now.
Yeah, I need a face to a name.
Yeah. Like, oh, yeah. I would say, I think it was natural and gradual for us ending that chapter. Because life changed, right? We started this business as a dating couple, and we ended this business just before we had bought our third home. We were trying for our third baby. We were deep into mortgage and children, you know, as a couple married for the length we are typically is. And what fit into all of that, it started to take its toll, where, you know, kids start to go to school. Wedding photography is a lot of weekend hours, and the time of seeing your wife and kids, and it was not ideal anymore. So it was a change. You did start to shift into other social media photography for a bit there, because we were also recognizing weddings on the long run. And I believe even from the very beginning, we said, this isn't something we're going to do for the rest of our lives, but we're going to do it as long as it kind of makes sense too. And so it did happen naturally for the conclusion of it. And then the job came, and that opportunity for you. And it was great. It was a lot of tough conversations. I remember being like, are you sure, Mr. Self-Employed?
Mr. Entrepreneur?
Yeah. Like, you love that. And you still do. You still talk about it. And you're like, every day you could wake up and maybe choose a different one sometimes. Like,
oh, gosh, yeah. I'm never satisfied.
But for us in general, our marriage and our kids, our family is first and foremost what we put our time, our effort, and our love into, and then everything else is supporting that. So when the business, in a sense, became less ideal of supporting that with more time than finances at that point, and an opportunity came up that would allow you to just do a classic 9 to 5 hours, give you those weekends and evenings back. Had great people to work with, and a different opportunity and challenge for you, which you like. That was very ideal in a sense for the official closing of the door for what the opportunity was laid in front of you. While also before that, there was a shift, there was a change. There's a reason why I gradually started to move out, and all the changes our business was going through, because we could just see it didn't make sense anymore.
Right. It was very organic, and it just all around seemed like the right time to kind of shut down the business. And as you said, I think from the very beginning, we knew this is not going to be a forever thing. I said for many years, wedding photography is a young man's game. And I mean that, you know, there's a couple of those old school veterans that are still out there shooting in their 60s, but generally speaking, that's not true. There's a lot of turnover in this industry because it is physically taxing. It's emotionally taxing. The way technology and the internet and social media impacted the industry was massive. And I mean, we could talk for hours and hours, of course, about running a business that we ran for 10 years. But we didn't even really hit on how social media, the rise of social media impacted the way, as
we used to do Facebook ads. And
I
those
know.
are great. And we're like,
now, I mean, maybe still, I don't know. I think it maybe has slept on a little bit, but like towards the end, TikTok was growing, and that was a thing where I remember just detesting, like, I have to do silly dances in order to go viral and have my posts reach people. And like, I mean, I've chilled out a little bit on some of that now, but that was what it meant to be a wedding photographer in some ways. And I just was not on board with that. I was never going to be good with that. Right. And so it just, other things, the commercial side of my business had started taking off, and that was much more stable, reliable income, which became a higher priority for us, right? So that was another thing that just really prompted, okay, maybe this is the time to make a change, right? But and again, we didn't even really get into the depths of COVID and what an impact that had on wedding photographer, the wedding industry as a whole. Yes. Every industry, of course, and some much more than others, but weddings were certainly no exception of an industry that was impacted by COVID and the ups and downs and all the things we learned along the way, and the great times and the awful times and everything in between.
And the general just exhaustion of wedding photography.
Absolutely.
You've just done it for so many years.
Yep.
Like,
ready
the
for something new.
passion starts to slip in a sense, and you were ready for something new.
I remember one of the weirdest things that I experienced was, it was in the year 2022. We had a couple weddings that had moved their wedding one more time, kind of due to COVID, and thankfully by 2022 it was mellowing out quite a bit. But I had a string of like 5 final weddings, and that was kind of my time. And I remember the last wedding I shot, which was just such an incredible wedding. Jeff and Tiana, if you guys are listening, you just had such an amazing wedding. I'm so glad that was my last one. It was such a beautiful, incredible day. And I remember, saying, kind of quietly, like not drawing a lot of attention to myself, but like, hey, this is my last wedding I'll ever shoot. And, their families, I remember they were so kind and polite and friendly and wonderful. All the good things about shooting weddings, which is what kept us in it for so many years, right? And being like, oh my gosh, you can't retire. You're so good at this. And I remember feeling weird that I felt like I was retiring at my prime. That I felt like I was stopping this business when I was the best I had ever been at it. But other things had come up that it just made more sense for our family and what had really started to shift in our personal lives as priorities to us, right? So I remember, putting up the notice on our website officially, not just that we were pausing accepting weddings, but it was officially over, and kind of thanks for 10 great years and stuff like that. And, it's easy now to look back with rosy-colored glasses and be like, man, we had some good times. And we did. I don't think it's wrong to acknowledge that, right? But it just felt like the right time to kind of say, you know what, we had a great run. This has undoubtedly changed our lives. We've learned so much about ourselves as people, as business people, sales, marketing, everything in between through this experience. And so we'll always be grateful for it. We'll always have the camera tattoo on our arm as kind of a callback to that.
And photography still plays a very important role in our lives.
Yeah, speak to that.
I'd say, well, you changed your camera setup also just to reinvigorate.
At the end of shooting.
And our kids are your favorite models.
Absolutely.
And we value all forms of photography. The professional cameras come out, and then the cell phone images get printed too. And in general, photos just capture so many great little moments. And then having kids, there's a lot of those little moments that go by quickly. So we're always pulling out the different forms of cameras, and it's always still part of our life. And it allowed you to seize some opportunities to feel like you could shoot at home in your life more, because you didn't have this pile of photos to edit, because you can't not edit a photo.
No, I'm obsessive that way. The details matter a lot to me, for sure, right? Like, that was one of the really cool things about photography all the way along, was that it always did have such deep personal meaning to the both of us, right? We certainly just through our dating days, we understood the value of shooting photos and what a cool time capsule those were. And especially now that we have kids, how much more valuable photos and videos have become, right? So that was a really cool aspect of our business that not every business gets to have, is that it was so deeply personal to us and we were able to put our heart and soul in it, that it was a really cool thing. So yeah, saying goodbye to it was bittersweet, more sweet than bitter at the time. Now that we're far enough away from it, it is easy to look back and be like, man, we did have a lot of good times. And even just some of the different stories and things that have come up today have reminded me of like, yeah, we had a good run, and I'll always be grateful for that. Maybe just as we close here, Leanne, is there one thing, okay, so thinking back to this whole episode, we've covered a lot of ground today and there's still so much more we could have done. Is there one piece of parting wisdom that you want to offer someone if they forgot everything that they listened to, but they remembered the last thing that you say here? Is there one thing that you'd, when it comes to business marketing, earning trust, standing out in a crowded market, what have you, that you think people can learn from our experience with Hush Hush?
Well, I think the 2 points that we brought up is, if you have like a passion for something, if you want to make a living out of it, remember there's more than just taking photos. The craft. And then definitely within that, if you're trying to make a living and an income off of something like that, it is more business first than passion. That's not to say be miserable. If you are miserable, it's probably not where you should be.
No.
But, careful riding that tension, that line. And again, with the whole need versus a want in the market out there.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for your time today, sweetie.
Thank you.
And let's do this again sometime. This was fun.
I know. There's lots more we could talk about.
All kinds of things. Cool. All right. Thanks, sweetie.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning into the Amplifyr Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't yet, head to amplifyr.ca, sign up for the newsletter using your email, where you can get our weekly newsletter, new podcast episodes, and so much more straight to your inbox. Till then, enjoy, and we'll catch you in the next one.